Part 1, The Discovery. Commander Tejo couldn't believe what he was seeing on his screen. After 3 years of deep space research missions, after scanning hundreds of dead asteroids and empty space stations, they'd finally found something worth investigating. A real human warship just floating there in the darkness like a ghost. "Jiho, run that scan again," he said, trying to keep the excitement out of his voice. "I want to be absolutely sure." His analyst's tentacles moved fast across the console, her 3 eyes focused on the data streaming in. "It's confirmed, Commander. That's a human military vessel, the UNSC Relentless. And according to our database, it's been missing for over 10 years. 10 years. Tejo felt a chill run through his scales. In space, 10 years wasn't that long. Ships could drift for centuries. But human ships. They were supposed to have emergency beacons, automated distress calls, backup systems. This one had nothing. Just silence. "Any signs of life?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "None. Power levels are almost 0. She's cold, Commander. Very cold." Scientist Hannah pushed her way to the front of the bridge, practically vibrating with excitement. "Do you understand what this means? We could actually get inside a human warship. Do you know how many research papers this could generate? The Confederacy has been trying to understand human military technology for decades." She wasn't wrong. Humans were the galaxy's newest players, but they'd already made everyone nervous. They'd fought wars that should have destroyed them, survived battles that would have ended other species, and their tactics made no logical sense. Other races fought to win. Humans fought like they had nothing to lose. "I don't like this," Doyen said from his security station. The officer's voice was quiet, but Tejo had learned to trust his instincts. "Commander, I'm picking up some strange readings from the ship's core. Very faint, but they're there." "What kind of readings?" "That's the problem. I don't know. It's like the ship is in standby mode, not actually dead. Like it's waiting for something." Tejo studied the image of the Relentless on the main screen. The ship looked wrong somehow. The hull damage wasn't random. Blast marks formed patterns, concentrated in specific areas. And there, near the main airlock, someone had painted a symbol in faded red. He zoomed in. A biohazard warning. A big one. "That's unusual," Jiho muttered, noticing it too. "Military vessels don't usually carry biological materials. Why would they need a warning like that?" "Maybe that's why the crew abandoned ship," Hannah suggested, already making notes on her datapad. "A contamination event. They evacuated and the ship was left to drift. Or maybe it's a warning we should actually pay attention to," Doyen said. His hand rested on his weapon, and Tejo noticed he hadn't looked away from his security console once. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines and the beeping of various instruments. Tejo looked at each member of his crew. They were good people. Smart. Experienced. But they were also scientists at heart, driven by curiosity. And curiosity could be dangerous. "Sir?" Jiho prompted. "What are your orders?" Tejo made his decision. They'd come too far to turn back now. The Arxelian Confederacy needed to understand humans better. Every species in the galaxy did. These strange beings who refused to quit, who seemed to view impossible odds as personal challenges, who had a disturbing habit of winning battles they should have lost. This was an opportunity to learn. "Prepare a boarding team," he ordered. "Full environmental suits. Bioscanners. Weapons charged and ready. We go in cautious, we stay together, and at the first sign of real danger, we retreat." "Understood." Everyone nodded, though Hannah looked disappointed at the word retreat. 2 hours later, they were suited up and approaching the Relentless in their shuttle. Up close, the warship looked even more intimidating. It was huge, easily 3 times the size of their research vessel. The human designers had built it like a fortress, all sharp angles and heavy armor plating. "Look at those scorch marks," Hannah said over the comm. The ship took fire from multiple directions, but it positioned itself deliberately. "Those hits are exactly where the armor is thickest." "Smart," Jiho agreed. They knew where they'd get hit and made sure those spots could take the damage. The airlock yielded to their technology surprisingly easily. Too easily, Doyen thought, but he kept that concern to himself. The outer door opened with a hiss of escaping air, and they stepped into darkness. Their lights cut through the gloom, revealing corridors lined with frost. Everything was frozen. And there, slumped against a wall, was the first body. "Human," Hannah whispered, moving closer. "Male, probably mid-30s. He died at his post." Tejo examined the body. The human's face was peaceful, despite the circumstances. His eyes were open, frozen in death, but his expression wasn't one of fear. It was determination. Like he'd chosen to be here when the end came. "There are more," Jiho called from ahead. She'd found 3 more bodies at what looked like a command console. All of them in the same state. All with that same look of grim resolve. They moved deeper into the ship and the layout started to confuse Tejo. Every corridor had multiple sealed blast doors. Every room had backup systems and those backup systems had their own backups. It was excessive. Over-engineered. Why would they build it like this? Hannah wondered aloud. It's so inefficient. All these redundancies must have cost a fortune. Unless they expected everything to fail, Doyen said quietly. Unless they designed the ship knowing it would take massive internal damage and still needed to function. That thought unsettled everyone. Jiho found a working terminal and managed to access it. "I've got something." Ship logs. Partial recordings, but they're here. A hologram flickered to life. A human face appeared, worn and tired, with a thick beard and torn uniform. Captain's insignia on his collar. "My name is Captain Miho," the recording began. His voice was rough, like he hadn't slept in days. "If you're watching this, you've made a terrible mistake. Turn around. Leave this ship. What we're carrying, what we captured during the Kreshtar War, it can't be allowed to escape." The recording glitched and Captain Miho's face became more haggard. "We tried to kill it. Tried everything. Nothing worked. So we made a choice. We're sealing ourselves in with it. Keeping it trapped. If you're not human, if you don't understand our protocols, then do not open the inner compartments. Do not." Static consumed the image. In the silence that followed, everyone looked at each other. Then they heard it. A sound from deep within the ship. Metal scraping against metal. Slow. Deliberate. Patient. And throughout the relentless, red emergency lights began to flicker on, one by one, painting everything in blood. "Commander," Doyen's voice was tight with controlled panic, "those sealed bulkheads we passed? They're opening. All of them. In sequence." Tejo's blood went cold. "Get back to the shuttle. Now." But even as he gave the order, he heard the airlock behind them seal with a heavy clang. They were trapped. And whatever Captain Miho had been talking about, whatever the crew of the Relentless had died trying to contain, was awake. The hunt had begun. Part 2, First Contact with the Unknown The red emergency lights turned everything into a nightmare. Tejo's comm exploded with panicked voices from team members scattered throughout the ship. Everyone was talking at once, asking what was happening, why the doors were moving, whether they should run or hide. "Everyone stay calm," Tejo ordered, but his own heart was racing. "Report your positions. Stay where you are until we figure this out." Jiho's fingers flew across her portable console, trying to make sense of what was happening. "Commander, I swear we didn't trigger anything. The ship activated on its own. It's running some kind of automated protocol." Hannah pulled up a schematic on her device, her hands shaking slightly. "These corridors, they're not designed for normal ship operations. Look at this layout. It's a maze. These passages twist and turn for no reason. And these blast doors, they're opening in a specific sequence." "A sequence for what?" Tejo demanded. "To slow something down. To force it to take a specific path." Hannah's voice dropped to a whisper. "This whole ship is designed like a trap." A massive bulkhead at the end of their corridor groaned and began to open. Beyond it was darkness so complete their lights couldn't penetrate it. Then came a sound that made every instinct in Tejo's body scream at him to run. A clicking, chittering noise that echoed off the metal walls. It sounded ancient. Hungry. Intelligent. "Fall back," Doyen shouted, raising his plasma rifle. His security team formed a defensive line, weapons trained on the darkness. They retreated through the corridors, but the ship seemed to be working against them. Doors that had been open now sealed shut. New passages revealed themselves where solid walls had been moments before. The Relentless wasn't just a ship anymore. It was alive, herding them like prey. There. Jiho spotted another terminal and practically threw herself at it. "Let me try to access the main systems. Maybe I can override whatever's happening." While she worked, Tejo examined the walls around them. Deep gouges in the metal, like something with claws or blades had been dragging itself along. And there, scratched into the surface with what looked like a piece of metal, was a message in human writing. "Can anyone read human script?" he asked. Hannah came over, activating her translator. "It says, Deck 7, Day 43. Still contained. If you're reading this, we failed. Get out while you can." It's signed by someone named Salmon. Engineering Division. 43 days. These humans had survived for 43 days with something hunting them through their own ship. Got it? Jiho exclaimed. The terminal lit up and a human voice filled the corridor. It was artificial, calm, completely at odds with their situation. Warning. Containment breach detected. Initiating ghost ship protocol. All safety bulkheads unsealed. Non-crew entities detected. Calculating optimal survival time based on current parameters. Result, 4 hours, 32 minutes. What does that mean? Hannah asked. 4 hours until what? Until we're all dead, Doyen said flatly. He'd been checking his scanner. Something's coming. Multiple heat signatures, but they're all from one source. Something big. The AI continued its announcement. Ghost ship protocol now active. Primary objective. Maintain containment of hostile entity through continuous engagement. Secondary objective. Preserve ship systems for minimum 200 years. Tertiary objective. Utilize all available biological resources to achieve primary objective. Biological resources? Jiho repeated. Then her eyes widened. It means us. We're resources. We're bait. There's more data here, she said, her voice shaking as she pulled up files. Video logs. Recent ones. From just a few weeks ago. A hologram appeared, showing a human woman in a torn engineering uniform. She was sitting in a corridor that looked exactly like the one they were in now. Blood stained her clothes and she looked exhausted beyond measure. My name is Salmon, she said, her voice hoarse. If you're seeing this, you've already triggered the protocol. I'm sorry. I'm the last one left. It's been 67 days since we captured the Omega. She coughed and blood spattered the floor. The Omega. That's what we call it. A Kreshtar bioweapon. Class Omega Hunter. Designed to track and kill intelligent species. During the war, one of these things wiped out an entire colony world. 12 million people. Dead in 3 weeks. Salmon leaned back against the wall, exhausted. Captain Miho thought we could contain it. Bring it back for study. Maybe find a weakness. But it's too smart. Too fast. Too strong. We tried everything. Vacuum doesn't kill it, it just goes dormant. Fire makes it angry. Bullets barely slow it down. It adapts to every trap we set. She looked directly into the camera. So we built a prison. Every corridor on this ship, every sealed room, every dead end, they're all part of a maze. The AI was programmed to learn from us, from how we survived, from how we fought. And when we died, it would use what it learned to keep the Omega trapped forever. Salmon's expression hardened. But the maze needs bait. It needs prey for the Omega to hunt. That's why we designed the ship to be found. Why we left it drifting in a shipping lane. Because curious species like you would board it. And when you did, you'd become the new bait. Fresh prey to keep the Omega occupied while the containment systems reset. She stood up, wincing in pain. We knew what we were doing. Every human on this ship volunteered for this mission. We knew we'd die. We knew others would die after us. But one Omega kills billions if it escapes. So we're sacrificing dozens to save billions. That's the math. That's the choice we made. The recording ended. Nobody spoke. The silence was broken only by that clicking sound, getting closer now. Louder. So we're trapped in a design trap, Tejo said, his voice hollow. A ship built to lure in curious explorers and feed them to a monster. The AI said 4 hours, Hannah whispered. It's calculating how long we'll survive. Behind them, one of Doyen's security team, a young officer named Bora, made a small frightened sound. Commander, what is that thing? In the flickering red light they finally saw it. The Omega emerged from the darkness like something out of an ancient nightmare. 8 meters of chitinous armor, blade-like limbs that could cut through steel, and clustered eyes that gleamed with terrible intelligence. It didn't move like an animal. It moved like a hunter who knew exactly what it was doing. Everyone move. Now. Tejo commanded. They ran. Behind them Bora screamed. The sound cut off almost immediately, replaced by wet, horrible noises that nobody wanted to think about. Don't look back. Doyen shouted. Just run. They sprinted through the maze of corridors, the ship's layout constantly shifting around them. Doors opened and closed in sequence, guiding them, hurting them. The AI was managing the hunt, keeping them alive just long enough to serve their purpose. Tejo skidded around a corner and nearly collided with Jiho. Can you access more of the ship's systems? There has to be something in these logs, something that tells us how the humans survived. Already working on it, she gasped, not slowing down. They barricaded themselves in what the ship's maps called the engineering bay. It was a massive room filled with machinery, backup generators, and redundant power systems. Everything a ship would need to run for decades without resupply. "This is insane," Hannah said, catching her breath. "They designed this entire vessel to be a prison. Not for enemies outside. For the thing they brought inside." Doyen posted his remaining team at the entrances. "It's still out there. I can hear it. It's not trying to break in yet. It's just waiting. Because it has time," Tejo realized. "The AI told it we have 4 hours. It's patient. It's been hunting in this maze for years. It knows we have nowhere to go." Outside their barricade, something scraped against the door. Then, chillingly, they heard what sounded like laughter. Not human laughter. Something else. The Omega was enjoying this. The hunt had only just begun, and they were already running out of time. Part 3, The Containment Breach ***. They'd managed to seal themselves inside the engineering bay, but everyone knew it was only temporary. The scraping sounds outside hadn't stopped. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't in a hurry. It knew they were trapped. "I'm pulling up everything I can find," Jiho said, her fingers moving frantically across the console. Personal logs, daily reports, maintenance records. The human crew documented everything. Tejo watched as file after file appeared on the screen. Captain Miho's face showed up again and again, each recording showing him looking more tired, more worn down. Day 1, successfully captured the target. Containment holding. Day 15, lost 6 crew members in a containment failure. We've reinforced the barriers. Day 30, only 18 of us left. It's learning our patterns. By day 45, Captain Miho looked like he'd aged 20 years. 12 survivors. We've made the decision. We're implementing the final protocol. May God forgive us. "What's the final protocol?" Hannah asked, but nobody answered. They were all watching the progression of logs, watching these humans slowly realize they were going to die. Jiho found technical specifications next. "Look at this. The ship's design isn't random. Every corridor serves a purpose. These narrow passages limit how fast the Omega can move. These dead ends are designed to frustrate it. And these rooms marked in red, they're called bait chambers." "Bait chambers?" Doyen moved closer to look. Hannah enlarged the schematics. "They're rooms designed to look safe. Escape routes that lead nowhere. The crew would lure the Omega into these spaces, then escape through hidden passages. The creature would destroy the room in rage, wasting energy and time. They were hunting it back," Tejo realized, a chill running down his spine. "Not to kill it. To exhaust it. To make it predictable." Another recording appeared. Engineer Salmon, this time looking healthier, recorded several months before her final message. "The Omega isn't just a weapon. It's a masterpiece of biological warfare. Kreshtar scientists designed it specifically to hunt intelligent species. It doesn't just kill for food. It kills for sport. We found trophies in its chamber when we captured it." She pulled up images that made Tejo's stomach turn. Bones, skulls, pieces of armor and uniforms from species across the galaxy. 17 different civilizations, all represented in the Omega's collection. "We can't kill it," Salmon continued. "We've tried everything. Its biology regenerates faster than we can damage it. We shot it, burned it, exposed it to vacuum. Nothing works permanently." So Captain Miho came up with a different plan. The recording switched to Captain Miho himself. He was in better shape here earlier in the crisis. "We're turning the Relentless into a living tomb. My crew has volunteered, every single one of us. We'll keep the Omega busy, keep it hunting while the ship's AI learns its behavior patterns. Then when we're gone, the AI will use what it learned to maintain containment indefinitely." Miho stared directly into the camera with an intensity that was frightening. "To whoever finds this ship, we're not apologizing. This is our job. Our duty. That thing killed billions during the war. If our deaths keep it locked up for even one more year, it's worth it. But understand this. If you've boarded this vessel, you've just volunteered for the same mission. The AI will use you exactly like it used us. You're prey now. You're bait. And eventually you'll be a sacrifice." He gave a grim smile. "Welcome to the Relentless. We die so others live. That's what being human means." The recording ended just as something massive slammed into their barricaded door. The metal bent inward. Everyone jumped back, weapons raised. "How long have we been here?" Tejo asked, trying to keep his voice steady. 2 hours, 18 minutes, Jiho replied. "We have about 2 hours left before the AI's predicted time runs out." "If we survive that long," Doyen muttered. Only 3 of his security team remain now. They looked terrified. There has to be another way, Hannah insisted, scrolling through more files. The humans survived for months. They found ways to fight back. We can too. Tejo started connecting pieces together. Show me everything. Every trick they used. Every time they outsmarted that thing. The data painted a picture of incredible human determination. Day 53, they'd used a sonic frequency that disoriented the Omega for precious minutes. Day 61, they'd manipulated the gravity plates to create zones where it couldn't move properly. Day 74, they'd used the ship's fire suppression system to temporarily blind it. They didn't win through strength, Jiho said, understanding dawning. They won through creativity. Through being willing to sacrifice everything for small advantages. And they documented it all, Hannah added. Every success, every failure. They knew others would come after them. They were leaving us instructions. Another massive impact shook the door. This time, a blade-like limb punched through, dripping with something acidic that hissed when it hit the floor. We need to move, Doyen said urgently. No, Tejo said, still staring at the screen. Wait, there's one more recording. The final one. Captain Miho appeared again. He was barely recognizable now, tied to a chair in a dark room. Blood covered his uniform. His voice was a whisper. Day 89. I'm alone. Everyone else is gone. But we did it. The AI has all the data it needs. It knows how to run the maze, how to keep the Omega trapped forever. But there's one last step. The system needs a manual reset from the core. Someone has to go down there, pull the lever that seals everything permanently. He coughed, blood on his lips. The Omega will come. It always does. But that's the point. The manual reset takes about 4 minutes. Long enough for the rest of the crew to escape if there were anyone left. Long enough for the Omega to find whoever's down there. The final sacrifice. The last piece of the puzzle. Miho struggled to his feet, swaying. I'm going now. To the core. I'll pull the lever. I'll seal this tomb forever. And when the Omega comes for me, I'll have completed my mission. That's all any of us wanted. To finish what we started. The recording showed him limping toward a heavy door. The camera angle switched to an external view. Miho entered a large chamber, walked to a massive lever in the center, and pulled it with his remaining strength. For a moment, nothing happened. The door began to seal behind him. Then the Omega appeared on screen, moving with horrifying speed. It covered the distance in seconds. Captain Miho turned to face it, standing straight despite his injuries. The recording cut out. Tejo understood everything now. The ghost ship protocol wasn't fully automated. It needed a person. It needed someone to go to the core, to pull that lever manually, to buy time for the others to escape. The core is on deck 3, he said quietly. Someone has to go there. Someone has to restart the containment manually. The barricaded door exploded inward. The Omega squeezed through, filling the doorway with its massive form. Its clustered eyes focused on them with terrible intelligence. Run! Doyen screamed. They scattered in different directions. The creature paused, analyzing its options with frightening calculation. Then it moved, choosing its first target. Security Officer Kyung didn't even have time to scream. The survivors ran through the maze of corridors, the ship's AI guiding them toward deck 3. Toward the core. Toward the place where someone would have to make the same choice Captain Miho had made. Behind them, the Omega followed, patient and relentless. It had hunted in this ship for years. It knew every trick, every hiding place. And it knew that eventually they would run out of places to run. The clicking sound of its movements echoed through the corridors. Not hurrying. Just following. Because it had all the time in the world. And they had less than 2 hours left. Part 4, Survival Protocol ***. The Omega tore through the doorway like a living nightmare. Doyen's team opened fire immediately, plasma bolts lighting up the corridor in bright flashes. The shots hit the creature's armor but barely left marks. It was like shooting at a tank. Split up. Tejo yelled, making a split-second decision. The surviving Arxelians broke into 3 groups, each taking a different corridor. The Omega stopped at the intersection, its multiple eyes tracking each group. For a terrifying moment, it just stood there, calculating. Then it made its choice, flowing toward the smallest group with sickening speed. Security Officer Kyung's scream echoed through the ship's corridors. Then silence. Just the wet sounds of feeding that nobody wanted to think about. Tejo ran with Jiho and Hannah, his lungs burning. They reached a junction where 6 different corridors branched off in all directions. Before they could choose, the ship's AI spoke through overhead speakers. Survival time recalculated based on current casualties. 1 hour, 47 minutes. Optimal escape route identified. Proceed to Deck 3, Section 7 for manual containment reset. It's helping us, Jiho gasped, leaning against a wall to catch her breath. The AI is showing us the way. Because it needs us alive long enough to reach the core, Hannah said bitterly. We're not being rescued. We're being herded. They followed the AI's directions anyway. What choice did they have? The corridors twisted and turned in ways that started making sense now. Sharp corners broke line of sight from anything chasing them. Doorways were sized perfectly for humans but would slow down something larger. Low-hanging pipes forced the Omega to duck and squeeze through. The entire ship is designed as a weapon, Tejo said, marveling despite their situation. Not against external enemies. Against what's inside. They found Doyen and his last remaining team member, a young analyst named Isul, at the next checkpoint. Together, the 5 survivors continued toward Deck 3, moving through the maze as the AI guided them. Jiho worked on her portable console while they moved. I've been reading more of the crew logs. The humans knew exactly what they were creating. Engineer Samin calculated that the Relentless could maintain containment for approximately 200 years before power degradation became critical. 200 years? Hannah whispered. They sentenced that thing to 2 centuries of imprisonment. And sentenced themselves to death to make it happen, Doyen added grimly. He'd seen the frozen bodies throughout the ship. Humans who'd died at their posts in corridors, slumped against consoles. Every single one had stayed until the end. They passed through what looked like crew quarters. Small rooms where the humans had lived. The walls were covered with photos, messages, drawings. Personal things that made them real people, not just names in a log. Tejo stopped at one message scratched into the metal. Tell my daughter I was thinking of her. Tell her daddy did something important. Love, Day. Another message nearby. Day 72 and still alive. Beat that record, Captain. This is going in the history books. Medical Officer Juan. And another, if you're reading this, we won. The Omega is contained. We succeeded even if we're not here to celebrate. Scientist Suki. These weren't faceless soldiers. They were parents, friends, people with families waiting for them. People who'd chosen to die slowly, hunted through their own ship, to protect a galaxy that would never know their sacrifice. Commander, Isul said quietly, why did they do it? Why not just escape? Warn everyone and run? Tejo thought about that. Because running meant the Omega would eventually escape too. And it would kill billions. The humans did the math. They chose the option that saved the most lives, even if it cost them everything. They reached Deck 3. The corridor ahead led to a massive reinforced door marked with warning signs in human script. The AI's voice echoed again. Manual reset procedure. One individual must enter core chamber and activate primary containment lever. Duration required, 4 minutes, 17 seconds. Survival probability of individual entering chamber. 0%. Survival probability of remaining crew members. 73%. The door unsealed with a hydraulic hiss. Through the opening, they could see the chamber where Captain Miho had made his last stand. The lever he'd pulled. Dark stains on the floor that could only be blood. And claw marks on every surface, showing where the Omega had torn through its final victim. Someone has to go in there, Jiho said, her voice shaking. One of us has to pull that lever while the others escape. Everyone looked at each other. The silence stretched out, heavy with the weight of what they were facing. Doyen checked his weapon even though they all knew it wouldn't matter. Hannah clutched her scanner like a lifeline. Isul looked terrified. Jiho stood straight, trying to be brave. I'm the commander, Tejo said finally. This was my decision to board the ship. I should be the one. No, Doyen interrupted. Commander, you're needed to get the others home. To warn the Confederacy. To tell them what we found here. You're both too important, Hannah argued. I'm just a scientist. I'm the logical choice. Nobody is expendable, Jiho said firmly. But somebody has to choose. Just like the humans chose. Before anyone could react, Doyen raised his plasma rifle and shot the control panel outside the door. Sparks flew and the panel went dark, locking everyone out except him. Doyen, what are you doing? Tejo shouted. My job, Doyen said calmly. He stepped toward the core chamber entrance. I'm security. I protect people. That's what I signed up for. And I finally understand what Captain Miho understood. Sometimes protecting people means giving everything. Doyen, no, we can find another way, Tejo started forward. There is no other way. Doyen's voice was sharp. Then it softened. Commander, you need to get them out. Tell my family I understood. Tell them the humans weren't crazy. They were just braver than any of us realized. They understood something we're only learning now. He entered the chamber and the door began to close. What's that? Hannah whispered. Doyen looked back through the narrowing gap, and for the first time since they'd boarded this cursed ship, he smiled. That some things are worth dying for. That duty isn't just a word. That sacrifice isn't weakness, it's the highest form of strength. The door sealed with a final, definitive clang. Move. Tejo ordered, his voice breaking. Don't let his choice be meaningless. Run. They ran. Behind them, they heard the Omega's shriek as it detected fresh prey in the core chamber. The sound of combat followed, plasma fire, that terrible chittering, crashes as something massive moved through the space. Then Doyen's voice came over the comm, surprisingly calm despite the chaos in the background. Lever pulled. Containment resetting. Get to your ship. Go now. The entire ship began to shake. Throughout the relentless, systems that had been dormant for years roared to life. Bulkheads slammed shut in perfect sequence. Gravity plates activated, creating zones that would trap the Omega in specific sectors. Fire suppression systems engaged, filling corridors with foam. The AI was executing its programming, using everything the human crew had taught it. Tejo, Jiho, Hannah, and Isul reached the airlock. Through the viewport they could see their ship waiting. Safety. Survival. Life. Doyen's voice came one last time, barely a whisper. Tell them I learned what duty really means. Tell them. The comm went silent. The 4 survivors stumbled into their ship and sealed the airlock. Through the windows they watched the relentless. Its lights pulsed in strange patterns, the AI confirming that containment was restored. Inside that ship, the Omega would hunt through the maze again. But now it was alone. Locked in a prison built with human sacrifice. An Arxelian sacrifice. Doyen had understood. Some prisons need guards willing to die at their posts. Part 5. The Price of Curiosity ***. The journey back to Arxelian space felt endless. The luminous inquiry limped home with 4 survivors where there should have been 12. Nobody talked much during the weeks of travel. What could they say? How do you process what they'd seen? How do you explain that they'd walked into a trap designed by dead heroes? Tejo spent most of his time in his quarters, writing. Not just a report. A memorial. Names. Stories. Every crew member who died on the relentless, human and Arxelian alike. Captain Miho. Engineer Salmon. Medical Officer Juan. Scientist Suki. Engineer Day. And Security Officer Doyen. 44 beings total who'd given everything to keep one nightmare contained. When they finally reached Confederacy headquarters, Tejo requested an emergency session with the High Council. They gathered in the Grand Chamber, dozens of species represented, all waiting to hear about the mysterious human warship. Tejo stood before them and told the truth. All of it. He showed them the recordings, the schematics, the logs. He made them watch Captain Miho's final moments. He made them listen to Salmon's explanation of the ghost ship protocol. He made them understand what the humans had done. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Finally, High Counselor Era spoke. Let me understand this correctly. The humans deliberately created a trap ship? They knowingly designed it to lure curious explorers to their deaths. Not a trap, Tejo said firmly. A warning. A necessary sacrifice. They knew that creature couldn't be killed. They knew curious species would eventually find the ship. So they made a choice. Sacrifice dozens to save billions. That's barbaric, a counselor from the Vexian delegation protested. Using innocent explorers as bait for a monster? Is it? Jiho stood up, her voice sharp. The Kreshtar Omega killed 12 million people on one world. 12 million in 3 weeks. During the war, it moved from planet to planet, leaving nothing alive. The humans calculated that if it escaped, it would kill billions more across multiple systems. So they locked it up, knowing others might die maintaining that prison. The math was clear. Hannah activated a holographic display. The human crew numbered 43 people. They traded 43 lives, plus anyone foolish enough to board the ship afterward, against potentially billions of casualties. By any logical calculation, it's the correct choice. But they made that choice for us, another counselor argued. Without asking. Without permission. Because asking takes time, Tejo said. And time means more deaths. The humans understood something we don't. Sometimes you can't wait for consensus. Sometimes you just have to act. He pulled up the image of the Relentless, still drifting in space. I marked it before we left. Warning beacons in every known language. Massive signs painted on the hull. The message is simple. Human containment vessel. Do not board. Lethal entity contained. Entry means death. It's as clear as we can make it. Will it be enough? High Counselor Era asked softly. Will other species listen? Teho thought about Doyen stepping into that chamber. He thought about Captain Miho tying himself to that chair, waiting for death. He thought about Saman recording her final message, apologizing to people she'd never meet. Probably not, he admitted. Someone will always be too curious, too arrogant, too convinced they're smarter than everyone else. And they'll board that ship. And they'll become part of the containment system, just like the designers intended. Isul, who'd barely spoken since their escape, stood up. I've been studying human military philosophy. I found something interesting. Humans have a concept they call acceptable losses. It means casualties you're willing to accept to complete a mission. But here's what makes humans different. They count themselves as acceptable losses first. They volunteer to be sacrificed before asking others to die. She pulled up more data. Every person on the Relentless volunteered. They knew it was a one-way mission. They knew they'd die slowly, hunted through their own ship. And they did it anyway. Because the mission mattered more than their individual survival. The council sat with that for a moment. There's another human concept, Teho added. They call it an honorable death. Humans don't fear death the way most species do. They fear meaningless death. But dying for a purpose? Dying to protect others? Dying to complete a critical mission? That's what they call honor. And the crew of the Relentless died with honor. High Counselor Era looked tired. What do you recommend, Commander? I recommend we establish a permanent quarantine zone around the Relentless. Any ship that approaches gets one warning, then we disable it. Court-martial any captain who tries. And we add this to every military academy curriculum in the Confederacy. As a lesson. A lesson in what? In understanding humans, Teho said. In understanding that they don't build ships to intimidate enemies. They build them to complete missions no matter the cost. The Relentless was designed to be a prison for 200 years. That's 2 centuries of containment, maintained by dead crew and foolish explorers. It's horrible. It's brutal. And it's probably saved billions of lives already. The council voted unanimously to establish the quarantine zone. Warning buoys were deployed. Every ship captain in Confederacy space received a briefing. The Relentless became forbidden territory. But Teho knew it wouldn't be enough. Somewhere, someday someone would ignore the warnings. Curiosity would win over caution. And the ghost ship protocol would claim more victims. 3 months later, the memorial was unveiled. A simple monument in the Confederacy capital with 44 names carved into black stone. At the top, the Relentless crew. Below that, Captain Miho's final words, "We die so others don't have to." Teho stood at the dedication ceremony, Jiho, Hannah, and Isul beside him. Doyen's family was there too. His mate. His offspring. They didn't cry. They stood proud, understanding that Doyen had done something important. He learned from the humans, Doyen's mate said to Teho afterward. He understood what they were teaching us. That some things matter more than survival. Ships passing through the sector reported seeing the Relentless in the distance, its lights still pulsing in the darkness. The AI maintaining its eternal vigil. The Omega still trapped in its maze. And somewhere in that frozen ship, the bodies of beings who'd chosen duty over survival. Teho thought about that often. About what it meant to be human. Not the strongest species. Not the fastest or smartest. But maybe the most dangerous because they understood something fundamental. You can't negotiate with someone willing to die for their mission. You can't frighten someone who's already accepted death. You can't defeat an enemy who views their own destruction as an acceptable cost for victory. The Relentless drifted on through space. A tomb that fought back. A monument to human determination. A warning to the curious. And a lesson to the galaxy about the true meaning of sacrifice. Years later, Teho heard reports of another ship that had ignored the warnings. A Thorian exploration vessel, convinced they could outsmart the ghost ship protocol. They'd boarded the Relentless despite all the warning signs. The ship was never heard from again. But the Relentless lights kept pulsing. The AI kept running its program. The Omega stayed contained. And somewhere in the galaxy's military academies, instructors told the story of Captain Miho and his crew. Humans who'd turned their deaths into a weapon. Beings who'd understood that sometimes the only way to win is to be willing to lose everything. The lesson was clear, carved into that memorial for anyone to read. Some doors should never be opened. Some ships should never be boarded. Some sacrifices should never be forgotten. And some species like humanity should never be underestimated. Because humans had taught the galaxy something profound. They'd shown that the most dangerous weapon wasn't a gun or a bomb or a warship. It was will. The will to sacrifice. The will to endure. The will to pay any price for what you believe in. The crew of the Relentless would continue teaching that lesson for the next 200 years. One foolish explorer at a time. And their memorial would stand forever, reminding everyone who passed, curiosity has a price. And sometimes that price is everything.